It's the Sean and Tamara Show.
You're watching the Sean and
Tamara Show.
And today we went to bar. We had to leave at about 7:30 in the morning on a very cold and wet day. So
Yes, we had to wake up early, which we didn't feel like. I mean, who wakes up early when it's cold and rainy? All you want to do is just lie in bed and sleep all day. That'll be the ideal day on a rainy day.
yeah, but the thing is, if you watched yesterday's show, we went to Tavua at the very least yesterday, and it was really, really hot. And when we got back, we were a little bit brain dead. So I guess we are grateful to the fact that it was cold and wet, as opposed to really, really hot. But the cold and wet meant that we didn't have as many participants today as we expected, which was perfectly fine because we sort of took it into account anyway when we got there, and we said, okay, we don't expect everyone to turn out because of the rains and stuff. But that didn't mean that we didn't have anything. We had an amazing discussion, and some of the things that came out of it was...
Well, basically the women were divided into two groups. So I took one group, and obviously you took the other one. So in our group, the issues that were raised were employment. About employment, how most of the women's children, the senior citizens in Ba, how they had lack of employment after they graduated from USB or FNU because there was hardly any employment for them in Ba. And also there was the issue, I guess the most important one was the issue of social welfare, because most of the senior citizens rely on the welfare money, which they get is $60 per month. But that isn't enough because they spend $30 or to $50 on their medication when the hospital runs out, so they have to go to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy we all know is expensive. And also the food voucher, they get $30 per month, but there are specific outlets that they have to go to, which are New World and MH. And then there's only specific food items that they are allowed to buy. And sometimes one of the ladies also said, so they're only allowed to get soup pack. But then most of the time, soup pack we all know is always bony, in reality speaking. And yes, and the roads. I mean, like, surprisingly, the roads. Well, this is not a surprise, it's basically everywhere. But then the women have to walk like sometimes 2 miles to get to the main road. And I mean, like a senior walking. What if they have amputees or something like that, and they can't even afford to get? They only get $60 a month, and when it rains. That adds to like the worse. It worsens the situation and stuff like that. Yes, that was about it.
But also about the social welfare is, recently quite a few seniors have been cut off from their social welfare. And to renew social welfare, you have to do things like get a medical, which is $56 that they can't afford because they no longer have welfare, and there's a reason they're on welfare in the first place. And then the thing is, after that, you have to appeal in Suva. Now, the thing is, if you don't have family in Suva, and if you don't have the welfare to support you, first of all, you can't get there. Second of all, when you do get there, how long would you have to wait? Then you have to take into account accommodation. But you also have to take into account the fact that you're leaving stuff behind. Like, you know, you're in a community, and you might be worried about whatever you've left at home. If it's some family, or maybe they won't be able to look after themselves. It's a whole range of things that just, you know, centralized sort of things like that. It causes a real problem when things are so centralized and they aren't reaching the people who need it. So that was one of the things that came out of my group. But also was the fact that even though it's been months since the floods, things like roads and bridges and everything else, they're all still temporary, or they haven't been replaced at all. So these people are stuck with makeshift bridges, and, you know, that's not safe, particularly for, you know, seniors, let alone the fact that, you know, if your roads are full of potholes, and the thing is your house is still torn apart, and you can't afford to fix it because your crops and your livestock have all been destroyed, and you know, it's really hard to recover from things like that, and there's no sort of safety net for these people in rural communities. Also, one of the things that was noted was in Yalalevu, which is where the Ba Senior Citizen Center is, which is quite near to town. It's like literally 2 minutes by car away from the town. There's no police post, and there's been about 20 break-ins in the past 2 weeks, so that's a lot of break-ins for such a small community. And the thing is, they don't even have a police post. And what some of the residents had been told was that they had to pay $5 a house for the police to come and patrol the area, and that's just not right at all. And there are people who would pay because they want to be protected, but then they're scared that if they don't give their money, that they don't know if they'll be protected or if they'll get hassled because they haven't given any money. And so that's a whole sort of range of problems that these people face because it's such a small town and there's so little development. It doesn't matter that there's so many people there for some, for these kinds of policies and things. It just doesn't trickle down, and that's something that they're trying to get, and that's something we're trying to help them with too. It's about highlighting the issues, and then the thing is, when you carry through these kinds of issues, which is what our executive director said, you can't just say one person, because that could be an isolated event. But if it's happening to an entire community, to an entire town, what has to happen is that these people step forward and you put a name and a detail to these kinds of things so that the people who are supposed to be held accountable are held accountable, and then these people are taken care of. So that's pretty much the message that came through today. And
yeah, just on the appealing thing, one of the ladies also mentioned that I think also that they should also explain legal terms, because most of the senior citizens, they've been here longer than us, and some of them didn't go through proper education that they should have, and there's a lot of contributing factors again to that. So I guess if they were to provide services, they should really simplify the language and terms according to the people so that they can fully understand what they are getting.
Because that's the thing. You can have a service, but because it's so tied up in legalese, there are people who just don't understand what they're supposed to do. And there's no sort of support for those kinds of services in these kinds of areas to say, okay, I will explain what you need to do, but, there was one woman who had the letter of that said, you have to appeal or whatever for your coverage. And she went to the hospital, and they said, we can't give you any medicine. This has been sort of suspended. And she was just like, oh. And she didn't realize or wasn't told what to do until someone there explained it to her. Because she's probably not going to understand the letter that she got. And, that's still something that's happening with our young people as well. So, it's highlighting a really important issue that you can send people to school, yeah, but if you aren't teaching them to understand, because the school system in itself is basically teaching parrots. At the moment, it's no level of understanding. It's just, this is your history, this is how you do the math, this is how you do the science, blah, blah, blah. It's so many things. Like you said, there's so many contributing factors to these kinds of problems. And, when you highlight it, you hope something gets changed. So we go to Tavua tomorrow.
Yes, Shan. So hopefully it won't be raining and it won't be sunny, and it'll just be like this. But then we'll just accept the weather as it comes. Yeah, so that should be interesting because most of the ladies from Tavua formed new groups. So that'll be really interesting to see what some of the ladies have to say, and also some of the projects, because we hear that one of the villages is going to open a new bakery soon.
So that's really encouraging. So thank you very much. You've been watching the Shan and
Tamara show. Stay tuned for more tomorrow.
We'll be back with more soon.